Hey there, everybody. John and Bridget back again for another episode of Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast. This week, we are talking about Your Lie in April. And joining us is a very special guest, Kyle, the man of many mysteries.
That is me. I am Kyle.
He is Kyle. That is fact. So you know. So, as we like to do all of our guests, we ask them two questions. What was the first anime got you into anime?
First anime, I guess, has got to be Dragon Ball Z. That was what I was introduced to by a friend of mine, so...
I was probably introduced to Pokemon before anything else, but I never, ever considered Pokemon an anime.
No, I don't really... Yeah, I never considered that an anime. I never really watched it as a kid, but it never really struck me as an anime. But I guess it is, right?
Yeah, it definitely is.
It is
That's
an anime.
for sure.
So.
Just didn't know what anime was at the time.
Alright, so then do you have a personal favorite?
Personal favorite? Not really. I'm more like... I guess I'm like a casual anime watcher. You know, I don't watch it a lot, so I never really put much thought into it. No favorites. So.
Alright, well, that is fine. That's fine. So, let's get into it. Your Lie in April, known in Japan as Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso, or just simply Kimioso, is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Naoshi Arakawa. The anime television series adaptation by A1 Pictures aired from October 2014 to March 2015. The show is 22 episodes long with an OVA. It has also been adapted into a live action and a stage play. The story follows Kosei Arima, a former piano prodigy in Japan. As a young boy, Kosei dominated music competitions at the cost of his childhood. Following the death of his abusive mother and teacher, Kosei has a mental breakdown. As a result, he is no longer able to hear the sound of his piano. That is until he meets Kaori Miyazono, a classmate and violinist who refuses to let his talent and life go to waste. Okay.
Nailed it.
I know, that was actually the smoothest I think I've ever done that.
That was beautiful.
That was good. It's funny listening to you say their names because I don't know what they sound like in the Japanese version, but they sound completely different when I was watching the English translation version. They said their names completely different.
Really?
Yeah.
You say like Rima
There's
instead of Arima.
Yeah.
Adima?
They say Arima and Kaori.
Yeah, it's Kaori.
I wonder how this is in English. We watched it in Japanese.
Yeah.
I prefer
Japanese.
Japanese.
I used to prefer English just because it was easier, right?
Right,
It's simpler.
yeah.
But over the last couple of years, I've enjoyed the Japanese more so because I guess there are only so many good English voice actors. That said, there are a few animes that I prefer in English. Dragon Ball Z is one of them. Cowboy Bebop's another, which we'll be doing very soon. And I think maybe even Sword Art Online. For the most part, we always watch it in Japanese.
Yeah,
And
I think the
blame
only one I
Bridget for it.
have to watch in English is Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
it
that's
is
really rough.
brutal in Japanese. I can't get through it. But English, great. So the word of the week is music, which is angaku. Yeah.
Angaku.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the fitting word of the week.
Which
Okay.
I want to say, the reason why we wanted our friend Kyle here to be our guest is
He's
because...
somewhat of a pianist himself.
Uh-huh.
That is overstretching the word.
Come on, we've heard you play.
Somewhat of a pianist
Being modest.
himself.
Well, thank you very much. But
So, John here wants to learn how to play the piano. You should teach him how
So-
to play.
I hated music as a kid.
like
As a
he
kid,
playing
you were
or listening?
when you were in junior high, maybe middle school, you were
forced to.
forced to pick up an instrument, right?
4th grade, yeah.
I hated being forced to do anything in school. That's probably why I hated school. But especially music, because at the time it gave you like a handful of options. You could choose saxophone, you could choose drum, you could choose... And it was none of the cool stuff, like guitar. Like you couldn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
And I ended up picking up the saxophone, and I never practiced, and I was horrible at it.
Saxophone is a cool instrument.
I don't
It's just
disagree.
difficult to
I just
learn.
I didn't care for it. But I've always loved the sound of the piano and the violin,
Mm-hmm.
which just so happens to work for this episode.
It is a shame that in 4th grade choosing piano is not an option.
Yeah.
Because it is a really nice instrument to play, but I don't know why.
Especially because
It doesn't work well in a group. You only need
Yeah,
one.
I mean, for like a children's orchestra or
Yeah.
ensemble, it's tough to roll out a piano onto the stage.
Yeah,
and be
like 10 pianos in a row.
Yeah.
I always wanted to play the violin. I don't know why. Like, I just knew in the 4th grade when they were handing out the papers, I was like, violin, checked it off. Number 1, circle, circle. Just something drew me to it, and I've been playing ever since. So, if you learn how to play the piano, you could be the Arima to my Kaori.
I'll get to it eventually. Kyle's going to teach me though.
Yeah.
Because
I
don't
make
know.
no promises, but
Mm-hmm.
about my ability to teach, I still feel like I'm not a good enough pianist to be able to even teach.
Well,
I think you can give Kosei a run for his money.
Yeah, okay, now you're really stretching it.
I mean, everyone can get an idea of what drew us to the show. You know, I saw the violin player, I saw the cat, the black cat. I was like, yep, I need to watch this show. Not really knowing how sad it would be.
The music in the show is interesting. It's classical music, but it's not music that I would necessarily know know off the top of my head.
Beethoven.
They do a lot of Bach, a lot of Beethoven.
I mean, a lot of Chopin in there, too. The very first song is, when the show opens up, it's Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. It's the third movement. And I was like, wow, I really like this. That's like one of the reasons I started playing piano again. I played when I was a kid. Later, I stopped, and then I heard Moonlight Sonata, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start playing again, because I feel like I could play that. And I really like that song, so I started like practicing to be able to play that song, and I was like, you know what? I really like this. So that's how I got back into it. But a lot of the music in there, I didn't recognize at all either.
Okay, I was curious.
I recognize the composers, like Chopin is like,
Yeah, of course.
And I played a lot of Bach and Beethoven and Mozart back in my day. It's beautiful to listen to, and it's relaxing as like the player. It's almost like not just relaxing, but it's like it's very zen, it's very calming. Like once you like learn a piece and you could just like play it in its entirety, it's really satisfying. It's really nice. And like,
I also think the ability to play an instrument is incredibly it's just so beyond my ability. Playing an instrument well, to me, is mind-boggling. Especially when you look at something like this show where it's literally meant to be like top tier.
Yeah, the cream of the crop.
Yeah, they're playing on a level that is completely foreign to.
But that
really
being
good
said,
players.
I did tune my violin after we finished the show, and John gave it a go. It's great.
Yeah, it's a weird instrument.
I've never tried.
I think
hard
the
to get big
violin
fingers.
can sound beautiful and terrible at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a strange mix.
Well, any instrument can sound good and bad, though.
I guess, but
It
like
gets so screechy.
there's something about the piano though that never sounds bad to me, even if a song's not played well.
Yeah.
And like you mess up that tone, that music.
It doesn't make your ears
The sound
bleed.
doesn't make my
Right, that's fair. Yeah.
Like you press too hard on the violin strings, you get that and all this like, oh geez. So
yeah, there are certainly some instruments.
Like, I don't know how my parents put up with me in the first 2 years.
You picked violin,
yes.
Bridget, as in middle school.
It was like 4th grade. You pick a violin.
What did you pick?
I picked the trumpet.
Oh, that's right. She
Oh,
did play
my
the
sister
trumpet.
played the
forgot about
trumpet.
that.
Yeah,
You still
that's
play
a
the
good one.
trumpet?
I haven't picked up a trumpet in, I can't even tell you how long. Maybe since I graduated high school. Not really that long, but...
I can't even remember the last time I picked up a sax.
Yeah, it's a shame. I never liked that either. I never liked being forced to do something. I just played the trumpet because, my brother played the trumpet, so I just said, yeah, sure, I'll play the trumpet.
Continue on the
I'm going to do that better than you.
So it was like towards the end of school that I actually started to enjoy playing the trumpet, which is unfortunate.
So for the music connoisseurs in the room, that would be them, not me. Looking at this anime, how does it stack up? For the violinist, does it look well drawn? Do you think they took from like watching an actual violinist?
Yeah. You almost get like a vibrating sound in the notes instead of just a straight note, and you see like the fingers kind of rocking on the fingerboard. That's vibrato. So like kind of like when a singer, instead of holding out a single note, they kind of get that shaky sound to it, like as they hold out the note. It's vibrato. And like they draw like all those little details, and as they play the higher notes, the fingers slide up to the higher part of the neck. Like they did a really good job with her playing, and kind of like with her like on her feet and rocking to it. And I feel like they did like a really great job, like very convincing with the playing. There are like movies, like live action movies that I'll watch where people are pretending to play and they don't even move their fingers. I'm just like, why? just move your fingers a little bit.
Mr. Holland's Opus.
Yeah. But no, I really was happy with the violin part.
What about the piano part? So like,
I feel kind of the same way. They did a very good job with
the way the hands move,
the way the hands move, and drawing and playing the
intensity of it.
Yeah, it was a very good job, I think.
Now I know you've watched legitimate pianists before play.
Yeah.
Is it as intense as
it greatly depends on the pianist.
Is that somewhat showmanship? Like is that like a style?
I think it's just how different musicians get into the zone. Yeah, into the zone. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like some musicians are very animated, and then some musicians look like they're robots, even though they're playing, very, very well. They just look robotic doing it.
It's like trying to stay calm, maybe.
Yeah, it just depends on the player.
The competition style, though, is very different from just what I've experienced in growing up in New York. They have NISMA, where you have to compete with a song. You get a judge or 2 judges. Did you ever do that?
I never did NISMA, no.
But you have to get a piano accompanist, and you have to have, the pianist with the sheet music that pairs up to your music, and you play together. But you don't perform on a stage. You get like your own room with 1 judge, and they sit down and they judge what is usually like a year worth of studying and practicing, and then you mess up one thing and they take a point off, and that's
that would
it.
be so devastating.
I know.
You spend a whole year of your life
still hurts
practicing
a little bit.
Yeah, that's rough, because I know when I play a song, it takes 4 or 5 tries before I
You have to warm
not
up. into it.
Yeah, not that I nailed it. It takes a few tries before I feel like, wow, I'm satisfied with that, run
like I'm
through.
in the zone. But yeah, the last Nisma solo I did was like a level 6.
Level 6 is the max level.
Yeah, but then it gets ridiculous from there. You can get like a standard level 6 and then, ridiculous
tiers
songs that you can never hope to accomplish. So I played Vivaldi Spring, which everyone has heard of, and then they made a Verizon ringtone for a while. So that song, after studying it for a year, playing it for Nisma solo, was stuck in my head for 2 years.
Yeah, that's rough.
No one's allowed to play Vivaldi in my presence anymore.
My next question then for you guys, because you would have the experiences. Throughout the show, they depict a variety of teachers, different methods, the way they go about teaching their students. Do you think that's somewhat accurate? I mean, granted, not maybe Kosei's mom, because that's a little more intense.
I would imagine that probably exists. There are people that are that. Unfortunately.
Crazy that the one person that stood up to the mother and had a problem with what she's doing was him, the son. That Aonuma was like, I'm on her side. Like, I'm the only one on her side. I'm okay with what she's doing. Because he thought it would make her better. Yeah. It was really sad.
The show follows Kosei, and he's had this mental breakdown because of the loss of his mom, who was this abusive teacher. And as the show progresses, you find out in her own twisted way, she was doing it out of love. Like, she wanted to instill in him the ability to provide for himself in the future, because here's this young kid who's going to lose his mom, and the dad throughout the whole show is a no-show. He's always away for some reason on business.
Yeah, you never actually
it's like a running thing.
You never
meet the father.
Yeah, you never meet him.
Kosei kind of takes care of himself, and the show is surprisingly intense at times.
Moments of intensity and then like levity. Like,
and
it bounces back and forth.
It's like a heartbeat.
Yeah, like the music that they play. Just sometimes it's calm and then it's always like, oh crap. But yeah, and when you finally get that scene where she explains why she's behaving the way she does, you kind of like sympathize a bit. And it's nice that the son kind of understood a little bit that, what she was doing wasn't wrong. I mean, she was going about it the wrong way, but it was she was going about it the wrong way, but he understood that he was loved by his mother. When she died though, and he was traumatized, I kept wondering, like, he's almost acting like he has like post-traumatic stress instead of like the loss of a loved one. I kind of was questioning why he couldn't play anymore. Was it because he was just devastated by the mother's death, or because of the whole process, what she put him through? He was literally haunted by her.
The imagery they use to describe how the notes sort of hit each person is very beautiful at times, but it's also incredibly intense from Kosei's standpoint, because there are times when he'll play, out of nowhere, in the corner of his eye, he sees a ghostly image of his mom. His mom taught him from childhood how to play the piano. His whole life bedded with that, so you get this picture of this woman in this wheelchair, just like creepy smile. And the way they draw without eyes. It's like a really taken aback sort of image.
Yeah, they did a good job making her very, very awkward and very painful to look at.
I kind of wonder what she was dying of. I mean, it was some kind of muscular disease.
Yeah, they
but never say. And then, I know somebody who has MS, like muscular sclerosis, and it's the same symptoms, but it takes years and years and years and years for it to get as severe as
it depends on this. There's multiple forms of MS.
Yeah.
There's varying degrees. Could very well be MS.
Just really accelerated.
If you have a very severe form of MS, it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take very many years for it to put you in a wheelchair. Or
I guess I'm just thinking of like Kaori's situation where she went from like, I'm okay to I can't breathe. Very sudden that it was just so fast, but it was a lot like MS.
So let's get into the characters. We have the main characters are Kosei, guys and two girls. They're like his clique. Tsubaki, she is the next door neighbor of Kosei. Has always been like his older sister. You watch their relationship sort of develop throughout the show, and they throw a lot in. So they have the music aspect, the competition. They have the emotional fire that is Kosei and his mom's relationship. They have Tsubaki's sort of always there to lend a hand friendship, which they then try to like shoehorn in a love interest. And I feel like at times they're trying to throw too much at you. Then I'm like, well, you know what? They're like teens. They're teens. I guess it makes sense
Raging
for
hormones,
like things to be going like this. I love the character descriptions. Just the way each of them are vastly different from one another.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to believe that they would actually be friends, though.
That's a good point.
Right?
I think they were only friends because they started out as childhood friends. friends and they just stayed together. They just grew up so differently. Yeah. But I really think it's just their history that keeps them together. Because you have the player, you have the girl that's the jock, and then you have like the quiet music nerd. And they're all so different, but I think it's just that history. They know each other so well is like a nice comfort zone, I guess.
So Kaori's this girl who comes into his life, and she's a violinist. She knows who he is, but doesn't necessarily let on that right away. She just pressures him, but in a good way. Get back on the horse. Just play through it. Play through your anxiety, your fear, everything. For their whole life, Tsubaki was there, always willing to like help him, pick him up when he fell. She could only do so much, you know, and then here comes Kaori, this violinist out of nowhere, who just so happens to also be terminally ill. And that's really devastating. There's so many points in the show where I'm just,
why?
My heart's breaking.
I can't take it. And she has the same illness as...
I don't know if she has the same illness, but it's very close.
Symptoms.
Very similar.
Except at a very accelerated rate.
Yeah, I mean, these kids, they gotta be like 14, 15, I think they mentioned in the show. The amount of heartache that they've experienced in their life is really horrible.
Well, I mean, that's because it's an anime show, obviously. I mean, I guess real life can be terrible for some young people, but it's obviously hammed up in any kind of...
I guess it is. Everything in anime is over-exaggerated.
Right.
Yeah. I guess just knowing firsthand, knowing people who've had like that kind of similar like illness and like the struggles of it, not being able to like feed yourself because you can't lift your hands, and then like watching them slowly deteriorate, and it being your own mother.
That's gonna be so...
It is so hard.
Like, personally devastating.
Yeah. And like it was like my friend's mom, and I like would help take care of her like sometimes. It was even though it's traumatizing, it happens in the real world too, you know. There's all different kinds of diseases out there, and it's just unfortunate because he's such a young kid to have to watch it happen to his own mother and then lose her. What Kaori did for him to help him like be able to face playing music again, be able to get through the anxiety and like just the trauma from it. And one thing his mother always said is that there's no point in playing if you're not going to win. You know, if you're not going to get in first place, you know, then what are you doing? And she's like, that's not what it's about. It's about the journey. It's about touching other people.
Yeah, I mean, if you notice at the end, like, they didn't even say who won the competition. The final competition, they didn't say who won.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You mentioned anxiety, and you have Kosei and Kaori both sort of tackle anxiety very differently. And I love how they depict anxiety in this show for Kosei, being underwater. I've had bad anxiety as, a young man, and I get that. Like, that's completely understandable. And, like, seeing it visually like that almost goes, wow, that really is exactly how you feel when you have that kind of anxiety. And granted, this is far worse than anything I've experienced, but it does feel like you're underwater at times. And just the way they draw that. But then you have Kaori, who kind of takes this anxiety and she turns it almost into her driving force, you know, where it was debilitating to Kosei.
I love how she would just piss off the judges because she would take these compositions and just change them up to whoever she wants to play them.
She just wanted to have fun.
Yeah, she's supposed to have fun.
Want to have fun.
And she doesn't play it to like the tempo or the rhythm or any way that the composer originally intended. And it would just piss off these like, you know, stuck up old man judges, and it was great.
You know, that can be fun. You know, you play something that you can play. You've played it a bunch of times, and then you just screw around with it. Sometimes that can be fun too. So
yeah, I thought and like I feel like the way that she played it sounded like way better.
One thing I really love about this show is how deeply music impacts all these characters' lives. Well, except for maybe Watery, he doesn't really. He's kind of falling asleep at these competitions, and he doesn't. Although he finds it impressive, and like he's there for his friends, he's ready for his friends. And other people are playing.
He's like snoring
in the crowd. You find out like all the characters, all the immediate characters, they've all been touched by Kosei's playing as a child. They just sort of play that into each other. I love sort of the end reveal. You have Kaori, who's in the crowd watching Kosei play as a kid. She's sitting right next to this other character, Emi, who ends up becoming a pianist because of Kosei. Like, she wants to be on his level, you know? Like, she's just like, that was amazing. Inspires me to do that.
And inspired.
And you find out Kaori was sitting right next to her the whole time in that scene. And they do flashbacks throughout the song. That's a really intense, beautiful moment.
Yeah.
You have just how music affects people and what it can be for people. I just thought that was a great depiction.
It showed Kaori run home and be like, I want to get a violin. It's amazing how much he's touched other people when that wasn't even his intention in the first place.
I can't even imagine what it's like for those prodigies. That pressure, that just lifestyle, that's That's insane.
Yeah,
It's insane.
I imagine you don't have much of a childhood. That is your
Maybe
childhood.
that is true.
Yeah, I think it's nice the way they depict it in the show, but I feel like reality-wise, it doesn't pan out that way. At least not for most of the children that go through these things, I think.
I hear they burn out by their teens, like they're done with it.
That's insane.
Okay, so the part that really got me was when he went to go visit Kaori. And it took a lot of courage for him too, because, he was basically seeing his mom dying all over again. She was having a horrible episode where she's having trouble breathing, and he walked in at a bad time. As he was leaving, the cat was dead in the street. Was dying in the street, got hit by a car. Had to run the cat to a veterinarian hospital and try to save the cat's life. Everyone around him started it was dying, and it was just oh no, the kitty cat. That cat was there throughout the whole show. They kind of bonded over the cat in the beginning. They were petting the cat, and kitty cat took.
You can't just keep saying kitty cat over and over again.
That's so sad. The poor kitty cat. Why did they have to do that? It couldn't just be the humans. They had to kill the cat too.
That's a metaphor.
Yeah.
Ugh. It was rough. Okay. I got my piece out.
Did anyone think that the girl was going to survive?
No.
I kind of I didn't think she would, but I was I really hope that she doesn't. Not to be mean, but it would kind of ruin the whole message of the show, I feel like. If
That's a you know what? John likes when his favorite characters die.
No, I do. I like a show that doesn't shy away from doing really rough stuff.
If she had survived, not that it would have completely ruined the show, but I feel the whole message behind the show was bad things happen, but you can move on from it, and you can still be a real person without shutting down. So if they had had her survive, it would have been well,
yeah, that's fair.
It kind of ruins that message.
That'd be some weird love triangle going on too. They'd have to give us a whole nother season just on that.
No, that's okay. But no, I did not expect her to live. She really changed his life around. And actually, it was as his best friend Tsubaki said, his life was in a standstill. Time stopped since the moment his mother died. And she got that clock ticking.
Do we get an idea how long she's been dead?
I think it was 2 years.
2 years? Yeah, I think it was 2 years. They kept saying it's been 2 years since he broke down on stage.
Yeah, I think
alright, so I guess he was 12. I always thought it was weird, and this has nothing really to do with the show, but when artists draw a kid, and this kid's 12.
Yeah.
Then they draw a kid, same kid, this kid's 15,
mm-hmm.
and he's double the size he was. Does that really happen to us at that age? Do we really have that kind of growth spurt?
Not, it's exaggerating again, but...
Because, we're watching Dragon Ball right now, right?
Yeah.
And Goku, I think right now he's 15. What do we say? I think he's 16. He's still
He's a
really
jelly
short.
bean. Yeah, he's a little bean. He's itty-bitty, roly-poly.
He's up against Tien right now, and Tien's this giant of a man, fully grown. It's just what is... You guys can't make it a little more realistic?
Right.
That's sad.
I think it's supposed to just be more symbolic of the age where we're still really kids at heart. We're still young, and then the age where we're pre-adults and we're coming into adulthood. They try to make us look how we're feeling, what we're going through. So you have the little kids. They want them to look like little kids.
I guess it would make sense.
Pre-adults, they're starting to face adult problems. They're trying to make it more like adults.
The watcher, the viewer can
and there's no in between. Just overnight, they'll just shoot up, just double in size. Overnight. There's no in between.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of shows do that. And you're probably right with the reasoning behind it. It makes a lot of sense.
Make them look age appropriate to what they're going through. But yeah, this show makes me want to get back into playing the violin more.
Makes me want to start playing the piano.
Yeah.
I don't know if it had that effect on me.
You know what? I think it's because I've never been good at a musical instrument. And it's one thing I always wish I was good at. Granted, I never really liked the saxophone, so I didn't care to be good at that. But I love the piano. I love the violin, although I don't think I could ever pick that up.
That would be hard because you have big hands, and it's easier with slender fingers. Just because where you place the fingers on the board changes the note. If you have a bigger finger, it's harder to get it in just the right spot.
You would know. I don't know.
It's not impossible. It makes it harder. Yeah. And if you're not if you're more interested in playing the piano, that would be more appropriate.
I don't know if I would be about a string instrument.
Well, piano is a string instrument.
Well, you know what I meant, though. I'm hitting keys instead of plucking strings. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Well, in a violin, you're using a bow. It's an instrument is...
You just gotta beat me down.
I'm just saying, none of that matters. It's just an instrument. You play it, that's all.
Yeah, but granted, this show definitely makes me want to learn how. Like,
It's an instrument, you play it.
I'm not musically adept at anything. Like, I'm not a great singer, despite the fact of always singing. But, you know, like, I've never
He's a
been
great
good at
singer,
that.
guys.
No, it's
I'm going to
not
get
true.
him to sing for you sometime.
It's not going to happen. We should do an episode where I'm drunk.
Yeah, I mean, like,
then you would
it's only
sing.
happened like 3 times, so.
That's true. That's a good point. Back to the show. I don't really have anything else.
You could talk about your dream from the other night.
Did you have a dream about this?
Oh, no, it has
No.
nothing to do with this, but yeah, let's give this to the listeners. Why not? Maybe I could always cut it out if I don't want it. So, and I'm glad you're here, Kyle, because you were in the dream.
Very big key part of the
For
dream.
some reason, my friend Kyle here, who is an American citizen, was being deported. And the only way for him not to get deported was for him to marry an American citizen. So I elected myself as an option. In New York, you can get married. You know, men can get married. I was just like, oh, let's just do that until you get, you know, whatever. We fix whatever you gotta do. So we do that. There's no issue with it, right? It's all good for everybody. And then all of a sudden, I'm transported. This is probably gonna be better than the actual episode. I'm transported to a stage. It's outside. I think it's like on a beach. Like, I'm at like an amphitheater almost. And there's people. Me and Andrew are on stage, and we're singing Backstreet Boy tunes. And Andrew's a friend of ours. He's this really tall dude, but like, while people are walking their dogs on the stage, and they're like, the dogs are pooping and peeing everywhere, as we're singing.
Bizarre.
Wait,
you
were wearing beanies.
We were both wearing beanies, and it was like the middle of the summer, singing Backstreet Boys. It was a really weird, a very quick dream. I'm probably going to cut this out.
No, don't cut it out.
That was very bizarre.
Yeah, it is bizarre.
First thing I did was go to work. Ingrid, guess what? Oh, man. So, that's Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast. And thank you for being on our show.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Would you watch another anime that we recommend? Like, did you enjoy it?
Did you enjoy this, I guess?
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it. There's like part of me that wants to not like it because I feel like there's too much hope in it. I don't know.
What?
Hope is a terrible, terrible thing.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean like it's too cheery, despite like it being sad. He grows too much, like so easily. It's just.
Well, I mean, he's been that way for 2 years. You're just seeing he's gotten to the point, and now he just got to get over that log. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just the nature of, like, TV and movies and all this stuff is, like, everything happens at once in these mediums. Like, in real life, obviously, it doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
So that's my one reservation. But, I mean, I guess it makes sense.
I gotta wonder how long of a span the show is. Like, how many months it takes place over, you know? Like, I'm sure it took time.
It says, the title is Your Lie in April.
Yeah, they met in spring, and then
just under a year.
Yeah, she dies again. She dies, not again, but she dies.
She dies
like,
a couple times.
Yeah.
I think it's before the next spring.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's less than a year.
And how about that lie? Like, the name of the show is Your Lie in April.
Yeah.
And she wrote him a letter that was given to him after she died. And he read it. And, that's the part where everyone's going to get choked up. And, she says how she did tell one lie at the very beginning of the year. Was that she didn't have a crush on Watsuri. She actually had a crush on him and wanted to meet him. And she didn't want to tell anyone that because she was afraid that Tsubaki would not introduce them.
Yeah, because apparently everyone realized Tsubaki
Had a big
liked
crush.
Kosei.
Yeah. So she lied about that so that she could meet him. And the whole time all she cared about was meeting him, and that was the lie. And that's like just,
icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake. She's already dead.
Cake.
They already had that great connection. She already changed his life. And this whole time she had feelings for him. So that's great. I'm just going to go cry in the corner. So, but I felt like this show is one of the saddest shows I've ever seen. I thought it was really, really well done. It was very upsetting, but it was like a really bittersweet kind of sad though, because it was very inspiring. It's about inspiring other people, very positive message. And the overall show, like you were saying, is very positive, despite it being about something so sad. Except for the cat dying part. I opposed it. Unnecessary people.
I don't think it was unnecessary. In fact, they probably should have killed a dozen more cats.
Oh my god, no! This is the ancient Haggis' bride all over again.
Kill them cats.
Stop!
My new
that's your new motto.
hashtag. Kill them cats.
No. Oh my god. So next week we are doing Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball episode coming.
And we're almost done with the next saga.
We're almost done with the next saga. We're going to
Frankington?
record soon as well. We're almost done with Dragon Ball, yeah.
Which is crazy.
We've been burning through that.
Yeah, and then Dragon Ball Z, and then
Oh no.
we're all down the road.
Like I look back on watching, like I've seen snippets of Dragon Ball Z Z.
Watch.
Yeah, much more recent than when I watched it when I was a kid. And I look at it and I'm like, that is not good.
Yeah, tell me about it. I have to watch it for the first time.
There are some
It's
good
okay.
parts. I mean, there are good parts mixed in, but yeah, it's long and
It's long.
it's a little rough around the edges for
Yeah.
sure. You'll be getting a Dragon Ball episode next week.
You can email us at gitcanime@gmail.com. Our episodes are always up on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play, and now YouTube. Just have a couple more episodes to upload on there, and then we'll be totally caught up. Our website, gitcanime.com, so if you don't want to go all these different social medias, you can find everything under one nice pretty umbrella. Our social media is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for GITC Anime. #.
Bridget also puts together the music from the shows for you guys on SoundCloud, so check that out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to putting the soundtrack for this show together. We have our Patreon account, so if you love our podcast, you want to support our podcast, please go to our Patreon account because we're poor and we would love the support, and it's a really big help to us. But of course, you are rewarded with awesome perks. And then lastly, thank you to our friend Anthony for our awesome intro song. So.
Yes, his podcast at What's Your Fortune on iTunes. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Bridget.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, patrons, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, listeners.
Talk to you next week. We out.
Meow.